Good morning, and thank you for watching Eye on New Mexico this morning. I'm Nicole Brady. Stuart Dyson is taking the week off this weekend, and because we had the extra chair, we were able to fit in an extra guest this morning. We actually have three of Albuquerque's city councilors, so about a third of the council then represented this morning. And thank you all for being here. We have Councilor Dan Lewis representing parts of the west side, Councilor Trudy Jones up in the northeast, and Councilor President Ken Sanchez representing the west side as well. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
We wanted to start by touching on the subject that's been in the news a lot lately, which is the budget here in Albuquerque. And there's been some debate with the various labor unions representing workers. Councilor Sanchez, you and some other councilors had budget proposals in the works back in the day. The mayor didn't exactly go with those proposals, but what have your impressions been of what's going on with the struggles now to get a budget and come up with a plan that the unions can support as well?
Nicole, let me first begin by saying that in the last 13 years that I have served in office, this by far has been the most difficult budget. We were facing a deficit in this fiscal year, the 2010-2011 budget, and the previous fiscal year was also in a deficit. This year was a $30 million shortfall, and this next fiscal year that we are in now is a $65 million shortfall. So we really had to come together as an administration, as a council, working with our Chief Financial Officer, John Zaman, working with the mayor, and trying to come up with a budget that I felt and this council felt that was fair and equitable. We had to reduce the budget by $10 million. Last year the budget was $465 million. This year the budget was $455 million. So there was a lot of buy-in from the community, there was buy-in from the unions, from the employees, and the council and the administration. It was a bipartisan budget that went to the mayor. The mayor's initiatives were included in that budget. One of the things that he had requested is no tax increases, which that budget did not have. No layoffs of any of the city employees, which also took place. No employees have been laid off with this new budget, and he did not want to shift any of the capital money into the general operating budget. So what the mayor had wanted in the budget was in that budget. He stated that he supported 99.3% of that budget,
Right.
Although now we're dealing with some of the issues regarding the salary reductions in some of the unions. But I felt it was a bipartisan budget that the mayor signed that was fair, that was equitable, and it was a compromise. And in a compromised budget, no one is happy in the end because everybody has made some sacrifices.
So tell us a little bit more about this, the compromise, and obviously we have a bit of a bipartisan group here this morning. What were the plans? Councilor Lewis, you had a budget plan that kind of, I remember we reported, went against Councilor Sanchez and Councilor Harris's plan, but it was somewhat similar, is that right?
Yeah, all the budget proposals were very close. I think there were just a few, minute, differences that we had. I think they were all based on a graduated scale. Certainly, we had to make cuts to our many programs and services, and we wanted to be able to make sure that the city was operating and that we didn't have the kind of cuts that would really harm our programs and really harm our services. And so. But we knew that we had to cut a significant amount of money out of the budget. The money wasn't there, and so we had to do that. So we were very close. I think there were just some minor differences and some differences that came down to furloughs or non-paid holidays. So we did have a lot of discussion on that, and it was a long budget process. A lot of weigh-in from the community, also from all the unions, and so. What ultimately came out of that, I think, ultimately we came together and did what we had to do and what we're called to do and what we're asked to do by the voters and certainly by the taxpayers. And so I think what ultimately came out of it, and certainly now that there's the negotiation process and the administration works through that process, but we gave a framework, and we obviously hope that framework was implemented and has been in some ways and in some ways not.
Let me ask you all what you thought about the plans with the unions and what we've seen, the kind of backlash of late. Pay cuts, you've basically been saying, I mean, those were going to happen. Those had to happen. But should the union members have to take pay cuts? If they had contracts maybe that didn't say that earlier, now in these economic times, is that appropriate?
Well, unfortunately, in these economic times, everyone is affected. The unions are affected, all of our citizens, our taxpayers are affected. We're in a situation where we have, we need to spend more money than we're easily able to bring in because of the deficit. And we don't want to be in a situation where if we offer furloughs that we end up with our taxpayers, and obviously the union members are also taxpayers, but we don't want our taxpayers to be paying the same amount or more in taxes and have decreased services. And of course, the number one thing we don't want to do is have layoffs. So somewhere there has to be some kind of a break. I like to tell people, because I'm a little strange, that the city can't make any more widgets. We can't get busy and build more widgets and create more income. The only thing we can do is cut our overhead. And the only way we can cut overhead is if we try to do it as fairly and as across the board as possible. Other employees are facing that. Union members need to face it also.
And as Council Vice President Jones has stated, you know, the important thing is nobody's been laid off. I believe, though, that with the fire and police department, that they came in and they worked with the administration. They came in and they met with the council, and fire was willing to take a $6 million reduction, including the salary increases that they were due now in July. And police was willing to give up $6.5 million. In the proposal that we send up to the mayor's office with the intent, they wanted the option of being able to take on paid holidays. In the case of fire and police, during the holidays, they are paid double time and a half. And we liked the idea of the unpaid holidays, you know, and including police and fire, because that way the other employees wouldn't take such a big hit. You know, anybody making $30,000 or less in the budget that we send up to the mayor, they would not be impacted in any way. Anybody making between $30,000 and $60,000, they were going to take a 1.5% salary reduction plus the 2 unpaid holidays. And the majority of the employees that work for the city of Albuquerque, I think the number is about 4,500 employees, fell within that second tier. So they were going to take a salary reduction of 1.5% plus the 2 unpaid holidays. You know, I think that now there is lawsuits that have been filed by the Albuquerque Fire Department, and also there is a lawsuit that is being filed by the Albuquerque Police Department. You know, hopefully, you know, this issue will get resolved where it will not cost the taxpayers any more money. But I felt, in all fairness to police and fire, that they went above and beyond in working with the council, in, you know, making sure that, you know, they had sent up a budget that they felt was fair and equitable, that they could live with their, you know, the individuals that work for the department. You know, anytime that a police officer goes on a call, he puts his life on the line. Now he's taken a 2.41% salary reduction. And, you know, I know that we only have so much money to work with, but they were willing to make the sacrifices. But now we are facing a lawsuit that, you know, is really unfortunate.
Councilor Lewis.
Well, we had some differences on the unpaid holidays, and there was some. I mean, some on the council would say that the unpaid holidays were a temporary cut. So I think when we're developing an entire budget for an entire budget year, we have to look at the kinds of cuts that are going to really make the kind of difference in our budget that we need, that the taxpayers expect. And certainly there is a place for unpaid holidays, for furloughs. They come at mid-budget year, late in the budget year, when we have to make up for shortfalls that we have not seen, and we may still have to do that. So I think there certainly is a place for them. I think when we're building a budget, we have to make the tough decisions, and we have to do some things that are going to that not everybody's going to like there. You know, and in talking with many of our wonderful, amazing firefighters and police officers in our city, I think many of them understand that. They understand what's going on in the private community and private business. They understand what the people that they serve and the people